Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hypecast mit Tom Reimann und David Bell.
Abe, are you excited?
I am hyped, dude. I spent probably an hour just before this getting myself into a fury about
just
movies.
Fluffing up the hype. Did you know Harold and the Purple Crayon is coming out tomorrow, which is today when this comes out?
Oh my God. And that's the one where you can draw anything and it turns into imagination, right?
Yeah. With Zachary Levi playing Harold. Run, don't walk to Harold and the Purple Crayon, our sponsor for today's episode.
It is not If. It is not the movie If.
It is not. That's their tagline. It is not the movie If.
We're not If. We're Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Oh my goodness! Welcome.
And there's a third. There's an animated movie too. I forget. It's called like the Imagineers or some shit.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
No.
Film.
There's another. But for some reason, like 8 movies came out fairly recently, or are about to, that are about children's like imaginary friends or their imagination becoming manifest. Anyway, that's just a weird thing. For the record,
Harold is not about a child for some reason.
It's about Zachary Levi.
A grown man. Anyway, welcome to Hypecast, everybody. This is God, fuck, what is this? This is the show where we get hyped about stuff and things. I'm one of your hosts, David Bell.
And I'm filling in for Tom Ryman this week while he's leveling up his family. I'm Abe Epperson from the Small Beans Network, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, Abe. Thank you so much for being my Tom.
No problem, man.
While Tom is doing baby stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Small Beans. That's patreon.com/small beans, right?
That's correct. And we do a lot of...
Yeah, what happens over there? What's that?
We do what you do, but, instead of things like... instead of things like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, we talk about, I don't know, Paul Thomas Anderson. We talk about what other shows we talked about, the Coen brothers. So we do slightly different movies, but we also do garbage. There's a show that you and I do that we're talking about just now called Inside Dads, where we talk about dad films. And we're going to cover Armageddon next. So we're all over the place, but we talk about movies, pop culture, and also we have like a wellness podcast. Michael Swaim is the other big name over there. Adam Ganzer is a big name over there. And yeah, come check us out if you haven't already.
Yeah, do it. Absolutely do it. We're sister networks, as we put it. We're sisters.
We're sisters. Yes. It's delightful.
Yeah. You like movies, right?
Oh,
like movies.
Big fan. Love trailers because they're like little tiny movies themselves. Yeah.
What else is new? What's going on?
What else is going on with me? Or do you want to talk about movies? You're making it very unclear.
Borderlands? Abe's going to be covering Borderlands with me. The movie everyone's talking about. Borderlands.
Yeah, we're going to talk Borderlands. We're also going to talk about Romulus in a few weeks.
Yeah, we are. Oh, my goodness.
I'm excited about that one. I'm really excited about that one. I love the Alien franchise. I think it's the best monster franchise. But yeah, Borderlands, I love the Borderlands video games. Because I'm a big nerd. I pull out the spreadsheets anytime I play a video game. So I am definitely not going to like it because I am out of touch with even what that Borderlands fans want from whatever that movie is going to be.
Maybe there'll be a scene where they fight the same person over and over again to get better gear.
They grind.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Jamie Lee Curtis is like grinding in the background. Yeah, no, it looks terrible.
I've been playing V Rising. Have you played V Rising?
That's the one where you run around and you're a vampire.
Yeah. It's got me hooked. It's got me hooked to his vampire talons.
It's good. It's kind of like Valheim for vampires.
It feels more like almost like Baldur's Gate-ish in the design of like that top-down like
isometric.
Running around.
Yep.
Yeah. So like it doesn't feel like a crafting game in the way that a lot of others do.
Survival games. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It is fun, and it has a lot of those components for sure.
Yeah.
That this is gonna, now I'm gonna like ask you to start to, open your mind up to like Diablo and shit now that the isometrics on the table.
I'd play some Diablos,
Yeah. I mean, like,
I'll blow it up.
Yeah.
I'll get blown.
Thing is, I'm really good at Diablo, have always been really good at it. It's something I got from my brothers. It was like the game that we played all the time when I was a kid, so it's like got memories and nostalgia tied to it. And so I'm really good at it, but I never have anyone to show off.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm actually really good at this game. Like, there's no games like that for me. So it's always sad because no one likes Diablo.
I'm similar with Call of Duty where I'm like, man, it's a shame I'm really good at this game because this game sucks. Like,
you had your time in the sun during COVID. We all played Call of Duty for a few months, and you were awesome.
Everything. Yeah.
My favorite thing you'd do, if you don't remember watching this guy's streams, is he would just run in with a knife and a shield and clean a whole lobby, and we'd be like, "What is going on?"
It's so fun. The shield is such a dirtbag weapon. We should talk. We should name some producers. And then we should talk about podcasts. We should talk about podcasts.
Yeah, we can
mainly
do whatever
trailers.
Yeah.
Big old thank you to our producers, starting with @NerdNumbers. Thank you very much. Thank you to Zero Charisma. Thank you to 2001: A Space McNulty Odyssey. Thank you to Aaron Bursar. Thank you to AJ. Thank you to Andrew. Abe deserves more hype, McGuire.
Hey.
Although you're technically not your co-host, but
I
works.
still deserve more hype. That's
it's
for
true.
sure.
Thank you to Andrew Howe. Demands a single act of kindness. Still working on that. We'll see. Thank you to Asking Seven.
Hey, I'll take over right here. I also want to thank, on behalf of Tom and others, which I'm gonna specify every time I give a thanks.
Okay.
Just so you know, it's not me actually thanking. Nope. Let's give it up for Ballet Karate Hulk.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Bob Grenville.
Yes.
Hey, you know who's really cool is Boodler Boodleson.
Thank you.
And let's hear it for Brian, who Tom knows.
It's true.
And not forget Brockway loves the meat Millie.
Yes.
And let's hear it for Burrito Says water, gyms, sunscreen, kung fu, ska, self-care.
Absolutely.
Let's hear it for Chester's Prophet.
Thank you.
And one more time for Christopher Robert Sparts Esquire.
Thank you. All right.
What a bunch of handsome names.
They are, right?
I know.
Real sexy names.
Real sexed up.
A Captain America Brave New World.
Yeah.
The big trailer, big one.
Harrison
was before
Ford.
Deadpool. Yeah, depending on the trailer you watch, and when you watched it, sometimes there's a shot of them taking a shot at the president. Sometimes there isn't. Kind of cut that one out when I saw it in theaters. Yeah, Harrison. He's playing William Hurt.
Yeah, he seems like he might be a bad guy.
I mean, he's been like teetering on that. He is Red Hulk, which they show at the end.
He's Red Hulk?
Yeah, that's Harrison Ford. They didn't even try. That's so in the comics that they didn't like try to hide that fact. Like that's what they're running on is apparently in the comics the character Red Hulk is this guy is
that makes me so happy.
I know.
Because it's like old ass Hulk.
I know.
Like geriatric incontinent Hulk.
I hope they made him do mocap and they put him in all that dumb outfits.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, and he points his finger up in the air.
Yeah.
That'd be great. We should do a whole rainbow of Hulks, like lightsabers, right? Like we should get one of each of them. Like the action figures would be so easy to do.
I guarantee there are. Yeah, they're like Mortal Kombat. It's like Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yeah, just like
change
spray
the
paint it a different color. It's even easier with Hulk because he's like basically all one color. There could be a pink Hulk, Dave, who's sassy.
Oh yeah,
and
sassy
a
Hulk.
blue Hulk that is like too sensible and pragmatic and wants a girlfriend.
We could do racist. We could do it racist like the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
His character's name, by the way, because I knew him as General Ross, I believe, and I just looked it up. He's Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
No.
This is Harrison Ford.
Robinette Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Ross.
I mean, we know. What I love about whenever Harrison Ford shows up in this is that he's got that Jack Nicholson energy where it's like he doesn't give a fuck for anything anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like he goes in, he's like, I'm here for the fucking paycheck. Let's go.
Major senioritis.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is from the director of the Cloverfield Paradox, so that's cool.
That's fun. I mean, good for them. They should be getting huge studio movies, because they're solid movies. I have a question about the setup for this, which I guess is my question for almost any of the non-superpowered Avengers.
Yes.
So Harrison Ford clearly is taking Hulk magic at the end of this film if he's a Red Hulk. Or I guess maybe he's naturally
the Hulk jizz. He probably takes the jizz.
Yeah, he probably does whatever happened to She-Hulk. I forget.
So,
his blood got on her blood.
Yeah. So for reference, there's a bunch of characters in this that are from the first Edward Norton Hulk. This feels like one of those cases where they're making it kind of a Hulk sequel too.
Yeah.
It's got Tim Blake Nelson, who was in the first one.
Yeah. Right.
Liv Tyler. Who is also Harrison Ford's daughter. And so I'm guessing in that one, Abomination was created using the same process, so you can make Hulks is the point. They're makeable. They're not like,
yeah, exactly. Now, wasn't Tim Roth though in what's the word you used in?
He's Abomination. Yeah.
Abomination. So that's supposed to be who we're looking
was in
at?
She-Hulk. Yeah.
So Abomination is Harrison Ford? Is Ross?
No. That's Red Hulk. He's Red Hulk.
Abomination is just I got like spikies and stuff too.
Judging by this trailer, and maybe this isn't a spoiler, maybe this is exactly what happens in the comics, so it's silly that I'm saying this like I'm revealing something, but knowing nothing about the plot, from this trailer, I'm guessing there's an assassination attempt on Harrison Ford's life, and he uses it as an excuse to try to enact a Brave New World, a martial law situation, and makes himself Red Hulk, goes mad with powers, and the reveal will probably be that he staged it all, I'm guessing. Because these are I like the Captain Americas, but they're pretty standard in terms of whenever people say they're like a spy film, I'm like, well, most spy films don't have monsters in them.
They usually don't go that far, I guess.
Yeah.
There's vies for power and there's coups, and I guess in this case a police state by the president. It would be really funny if at one point when he turns around at the end of the trailer it said, make America great again.
Yeah, he'll say, I'm going to make America Hulk again. Or something.
Yeah. I mean, he's red and everything. Yeah, I like this little nod towards tyranny. I just know that I was this movie and the way he's speaking, I didn't even know that he was Red Hulk. I was like, Harrison Ford is definitely going to be a villain of some kind.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, Ross has always been kind of a villain.
Right. I mean, he seemed like on the side of humans versus superpowers.
He's he's always been the kind of guy where you're like, you're kind of right. It's you're not wrong, you're just an asshole. It's that.
Right.
Where it's he's always he's things like the Hulk is bad, so let's murder him. Like the Hulk. And I'm yeah, I get it.
I mean, it's a good impulse, not to be honest, but now he's a Superman, And Anthony Mackie still is not, right? He's still no super serum. He's just like Hawkeye,
great
right?
Question. Did you watch the the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I watched. Yeah, I don't know if I finished it.
I don't
TV
remember.
show.
I don't remember if he gets superpowered.
I don't think he got superpowered in that one. I could be wrong. You can tell us the right answer. This is we could look this up, but I don't know. With Marvel stuff, it's always hard to search because then it's like, well, actually, in the multiverse, 2 of them were superpowered, but this one, so it's always hard to find exactly who we're talking about.
Right. I'd argue it's not our responsibility. It's the movies. Right? It's
the movies, but like the movie shouldn't have to say that in the trailer. I just think it's once again one of those things where it's like, I think one of the problems with Marvel running into it is that they try to make a main character out of everyone. And I'm not saying Anthony Mackie is a bad decision or keeping the Captain America as a franchise for Marvel is a bad decision, but it's like it always does kind of make me go, well, this is kind of strange because like by the end of it, he's going to be doing stuff that you should only be able to do if you are like Captain Marvel, right? Like doesn't he fly through like a plane? And I'm you're the Falcon. You got you can fly. That's really cool. But like you are just a guy and basically a crash test dummy up there, right?
Right. I am also confused about this because it feels like if he flew through a plane, on the other end it would just be his exposed skull and like his limp corpse attached to the wings, just still soaring through the air,
ghost ridering his way into the ground.
I honestly don't know. This is the issue that I think Marvel's running into right now.
Right.
As they become so hyper fan focused that general audiences are like, I can't keep up anymore. Like I'm exhausted. Like in this one, they're gonna be like, "Remember fucking Timberlake Nelson?" And then people are gonna be like, "Not really."
That was almost 20 years ago.
But I mean, Deadpool made all the money, so I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of memes of like Marvel is so back, and I'm like, so I guess it's not controversial, but like. My thought on that is I don't think Deadpool 3 is the signifier of that. I actually think this movie will be the
signifier. Yeah, they're gambling a lot, which is always tough for a franchise to do. Say like your excitement of everything is based off the success of one movie, which there's going to be a story that we're going to probably talk a lot about.
Yes.
This.
Yeah, we'll get into it later.
So
you're right.
Maybe we should move on
to a complete unknown.
Another superhero movie. Yeah. Bob Dylan fucking flying through planes, baby.
This is like this in the Beatles movie. It really just feels like, and listen, I know young people who like both of these artists, but it's like the Boomers' Last Stand, where they're like, no, damn it, we're making 4 Beatles movies. We're making another Bob Dylan movie because they've made like, I don't know, feels like 4.
Several. Yeah. They... Inside Llewellyn Davis was a great movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I took away from this trailer. It's literally got like the same shots of it. So many fucking shots of his back with his bushy hair silhouette where it's like, who is it? Do you think it's going to be Bob Dylan? Do you think it's going to be Bob Dylan? Turns out it's Timothy Chalamet. And kudos to him for doing the voice. He's doing the voice, singing the songs.
Fucking voice.
Fucking let's go. Try, gamble on yourself.
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, this is just Inside Llewellyn Davis because James Mangold also made Logan, which I would argue was just Children of Men, where it's like it's kind of a pattern now. Because
there's only so many movie types, I guess.
Yeah,
it's hard to lob. But
he also he made Dial of Destiny. Remember that movie?
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, I mean I do remember it, but I didn't know he made that. I thought he had a brand that was pretty airtight, but it seems like
I would argue that he has flown under the radar as like he directed Identity.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Night and Day. He directed The Wolverine. And so, like, the thing is, he also directed Copland, Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma. So in my
310 to
opinion,
Yuma
he
is
is
really good.
extreme. Oh, Ford v Ferrari as well, which I think is good.
Oh wow, yeah.
He is one of the most hit or miss people for me.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
It seems like the deciding factor is he making this for him or is he making it for a studio?
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is to say,
no.
this film is probably going to be good, actually, based on that
I
equation.
hope so. There's something that, because I've watched a few of those, like across the universe and such. I hope they make something that people like, because I'm not like a huge Dylan head, but something I loved about Dylan and would be in a biopic like this is that they make Dylan funny and weird.
Yeah.
Because history seems to forget that he was publicly like a goblin.
Weird little freak. Yeah,
Like
he seems like one.
You ever hear the light bulb story?
No.
Where he arrived at like a place where they interview, like Bob Dylan, and he goes up to the podium or whatever, and they're like, "Hey man, so in your hand right now is this oversized, like comically oversized light bulb. Why do you have that, Bob Dylan? Why did you bring that into this shit?" And his response is, "Man, I knew you'd ask me that." It's just like, it's such a perfect, and the Beatles too. And that's in none of the Beatles things, is they were so
Right.
playful and probably very high.
Oh,
But like that
God,
playful
yeah.
kind of like celebrity is something that we don't really have anymore. We don't have someone who's like a goblin. I mean, maybe like Ryan Reynolds or something, but I'm trying to think of someone who's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to subvert like
Well, goblin in a
everything
way where
about
they're not-
celebrity.
Where they don't feel like they're trying too hard. Like the thing that always, and I don't want to keep talking and harping on Deadpool, but the thing that always like I think Ryan Reynolds is funny and talented. I'm just starting that way. He's right at that weird fringe, and not just Deadpool, but like Free Guy, where it's like, look how subversive and edgy we are within
Right.
corporate limits, baby.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's safe and it's trying to act like it isn't. And that,
Right.
so going back
That's
to the
right.
weird goblin thing, I'm trying to think, because you're right. Like, who's the real maniacs out
Shia
there?
LaBeouf.
Yeah, they have to be like,
Get
they
real
have to
dark.
be repellent. They have
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
repellent.
Because like Bob Dylan was counterculture, you're right, and he
Yeah.
was like, and this feels like a movie that is dipping into. It's like Walk the Line.
Yeah.
It's trying to dip into that counterculturalism, but also being coming from one of the bigger studios. It's all
Yeah.
it's all owned by corporations like Sony. So
That's the thing, is much like Walk the Line, I suspect if Bob Dylan had an interesting story, we would have told it by now. And this is more of
Yeah.
like, well, we got to do a Bob Dylan movie. Does he have an interesting life?
nah, I
Yeah.
mean he was dark. He had his songs, and he was a weirdo, but he didn't like kill anybody.
Yeah, for me the red flag whenever a trailer like this comes out is the shot of everybody like ooh, fame, chick pictures,
Yeah, wow.
That it's always that shot where it's like the fact that they're famous is a plot point, and I'm like, yeah, I know they're famous, like that's tell me more about
and then
them.
the fame got to him, and I'm
Right.
like, I honestly believe that like Timothy Chalamet has more interesting thoughts about this than this movie will, which will present
Right.
it as like, it's a curse, and you love it and you hate it. That's what happens with fame.
I gotta point out, this is from the co-writer of this is the screenwriter of Age of Innocence, Strange Days, and Gangs of New York. And I'm like, all right. And I only want to point that out because his name is Jay Cox. And I'm like, that's
And that pleases
great.
you.
That's great
Pleases
news about
you.
his name.
Gangs of New York, huh?
Written by Jay Cox.
All right. Let's
Jaycock.
get a complete unknown inside Llewellyn Davis,
Yeah.
a.k.a. the Bob Dylan story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're a Bob Dylan fan, I'm happy for you. I'm just,
Yeah,
I
go enjoy
also
some
like,
songs.
I was never going to see this as
It's
the
really
truth.
not for me, to be honest.
You know what it is for me?
Yeah?
The Deliverance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is where I have to point out, that everybody has their own dumb tastes,
Mhm.
because this is a cookie cutter exorcism movie, from what I can tell. Did this ping you as being like...
It seems cookie cutter only in that it seems like it's hitting all the basics, and there's no other parts of the movie, according to this trailer, that exist other than the exorcism and the fallout after. So I feel like this is actually kind of gonna, like, because they're also trying to pitch it as like, you know, like, oh, it's kind of indie art house too. Like, there is that vibe because it's a smaller budget, and so they almost every movie that does have a smaller budget leans into it. This feels like it's modern day The Witch. I hope the child decides to live deliciously or something. Like, they have to do one, because like I know what you're talking about, how it seems run of the mill, and yeah, they could just do like, and then they save it, but it feels like, where's your act 3? Because your act 1 is there's an exorcism that needs to be had. Your act 2 is they try the exorcism and fail, and then they try it again and they succeed, I guess. What's your act 3? You know, like you're running out of options here. So they need to have like, oh, actually it doesn't look like it took. Also, Glenn Close is there smoking cigarettes. I don't know.
This is Lee Daniels, so that actually makes me think like he probably wouldn't just do a cookie cutter, because the thing is, I'm going to see this no matter what, because there's just a certain demographic that I happen to be a part of, that if you make the same exorcism film over and over, I'll keep seeing it. I don't know why.
It's very self-aware of you. Yeah,
they're all inspired by a true story, which they're not, and they all are exactly the same. That new Russell Crowe one, The Exorcism, that's one where you watch the trailer and you might go like, okay, I bet there's more to this. And there isn't. There's never anything more to it. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I will say this is a weird detail, and I don't know if this means anything. One of the writers did the Orphan sequel, Orphan First Kill. Did you see that?
Do you remember who directed Orphan?
Was it you?
No.
The original Orphan or Orphan First Kill?
First Kill.
It's the guy who did The Devil Inside, it looks like.
Okay. I don't think I know.
Okay. And what I'll say about Orphan First Kill is they do something surprising in it. They extend it, for better or for worse.
So it's an Act 3 thing. They have to solve it. So you might
be right that
they have to do something. Or
you're right.
They don't. Or they elongate the movie, and Act 3 is the exorcism, and and then the denouement, like the ending is, we saved a kid. After all that, we saved a kid, like the original Exorcist.
There's usually like a little bit of darkness, like someone, I don't know, they do the thing that they've been doing this in all of them, where they bend backwards now, and then it's like it's like they clearly like figured out how to do that really easily,
right?
And now
there's shots of like I don't know what it is, because I'm totally reading into it, but there's a shot of the kid who's like up and around and drinking, and is like drinking milk.
Ooh.
And they do it after a series of shots that led me to believe that was actually after the exorcism, as opposed to like the initial things. So I'm like, something might have happened with this Deliverance, so to speak. But I could be totally reading into it, and it's just a trailer that is out of order.
The thing about horror, and I want to talk about this later too, is that most horror trailers, I think for most people, you'd never know if it's good or not. You know what I mean? They all advertise them very similarly. So I think that's why horror junkies go. It's like scratch and scratch tickets, where you're like, you never know when you're going to get a winner.
Yeah, but at least I'll have the jump scares, and there'll be stuff that I'm familiar with.
At least I'll be reminded I'm alive a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to talk about the main event?
Yeah, let's talk about Conclave.
I feel like we're going to be covering
the main event. So this is Game of Thrones Game of Popes.
Yeah. I saw this first seeing Twisters with my parents in Massachusetts. And the moment it started, I was like, I looked to my dad immediately like, oh, this is going to be for you. This is for all the dads out there.
Yeah, and my dad's big dad energy.
Eyes lit up. Yeah.
Yeah, they just like a moth to the flame. They can't help it.
He turned to me and he was like, I'm seeing that. I'm like, I know.
I know. You're watching Game of Popes. Every few years, we make one of these, right? Where all these Catholics are going to little finger their way into becoming the holiest man in the world. And I love that we do it so often. I mean, because we had young Pope like almost a decade ago, which was like Sex Pope. But then
Yeah.
like we've had like two since. We've had like another TV show and a movie, if I recall, where he was just like, I'm a the Pope, I'm taking us to power. You know?
Yeah, that was the line.
It's me, the destroyer of worlds. Like they're always like grungy popes that are
Yes.
like, I will do whatever I need to secure my power.
Yeah,
Also, is there
sorry.
bombing during the Pope ceremony?
I think so. So for people who haven't watched the trailer, the Pope has died. It seems like under mysterious circumstances. We'll see. And a bunch of other soon-to-be popes it's a Pope vote. Pope vote. They should have called it
Yeah.
Pope vote.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
But it's clear that there's something fishy going on. It's real like Da Vinci Code-ish.
Yeah,
It's
it
based
is.
off a book because of course it is.
Of course it
It's
is.
got all the guys. It's got Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, and John Lithgow just all going at each other.
Old dudes telling each
Yeah.
other that you're like, you can't do this. They'll swat you down. They'll swat
Right.
you down, Ray Fiennes.
It's like it is very vague conspiracy. Like I'm not quite sure what's going on, and then at the end, you're right. It looks like a bomb goes off.
Yeah. So I think it's vying for power, and it's like, how far will these popes go to become pope?
Yeah, and I'm gonna fucking watch the shit out of this.
I'm probably gonna watch it like your dad, because
Yeah,
we
this
are
is-
tiny versions of your dad.
Yeah. I like to be clear about this when talking about Marvel, where it's just like, it's all kind of just junk.
Yeah.
It's all and it's just what junk do you like, what works on you? And like, this is the junk that works on me. It's also the director of All Quiet on the Western Front, which I believe was good, right? People think that's a
yeah.
good
I mean,
movie.
it was nominated for a ton of Oscars. It did not do well because that was the Everything Everywhere All at Once year.
Right.
So that took all of the awards.
Edward Berger. It's a good name. No Jay Cox, but who you know.
Hey, you want to talk about a real good name?
Yeah.
Do you know
Is this the next one?
Yeah, it is.
Rob Pace. Rob Peace.
Rob Peace. That's the
Rob
name.
Peace.
And it's the name of the person. It's not robbing a guy named Peace or taking the ephemeral concept of peace.
This almost has that Antoine Fisher energy.
Yeah, it does.
Remember Antoine Fisher, which I believe was written by Antoine Fisher?
Yeah.
And I think it might have been directed by Antoine Fisher.
Such a great idea.
Yeah.
Perfect role.
This is fuck, what is this? This looks like it's like a Will Hunting. It's a kid who
He's got a big brain.
He's got a big old brain. My boy's wicked smart. And he his dad goes to jail when he's a little kid, and then he grows up and he's going to use his big brains to get his dad out. And it feels like the vibe I'm getting is that he's going to learn that his dad super did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dad super did the thing.
Right, because it seems inspirational for him. And you gotta, in a drama, you gotta make it so that it's like, the thing that I gotta shake this character to his core. And
Yeah.
it seems very important to him that he's like, I'm gonna go to Yale, I'm gonna meet some Winklevosses, and I don't know, I'm gonna sell him a math problem and make $1 million and get you out, Daddy.
And it's written and directed by Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think I said that right.
Yeah, like he
who's
plays the
very good.
dad as well.
Yeah.
And it's the first scene in the trailer. You can see the interaction, and like that's what I love about knowing like about movies. I think you're absolutely right with that impulse, because if you watch this scene, it's a dad who's overly excited about like his kid knowing stuff. Like, tell me the answer to this math problem, like a toy. Like his dad is playing with his child.
Yes.
Not out of some like kind of like, I'm a dad and I'm going to like play with my child so they enjoy themselves. Like he's being very supportive,
Like
but
a
it's
novelty.
like, but he's also like, I could probably get some money from this kid.
Yeah.
And it's that combination that I think makes me believe, okay, so like what's at the heart and question of the, like what's the thesis of this movie in the end? Well, it's probably going to be about like what that love is and how we fall for it and stuff like that, which seems like a cool story. It's also rob peace, like he would be robbing the peace from it.
I would argue maybe new name for the movie.
Yeah, I think so.
If I was in the room and I was, producing this or something, I'd be like, new name. Let's do new name, because otherwise the movie looks really good. I think it is what you're saying, like kind of loss of innocence. Like we've all had a moment in our lives growing up where we realize that adults aren't smart. You know what I mean? Where you realize like,
dicks.
Oh, yeah,
they had
adults,
a different plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm scared this will fall through the cracks just because the fucking name. I'm gonna forget the name.
Right.
They have one
it's
shot.
very much like a Goodwill Hunting name too, because that's a terrible name.
It is.
Like a very good movie.
It really is a bad. Goodwill Hunting is a terrible fucking name.
Yeah.
Michael Kelly's in it. I saw a shot of him, and I was only thinking because, like, in the one shot, I found him threatening and assumed he's a bad guy, and like that's kind of his fucking cross to bear at this point,
right?
Because he has, even when he's trying to be a good guy, I'm like, I don't believe you. I just don't. I think
you played too many bad guys.
Because he plays a bureaucrat usually, or like a suit. And so suits always seem like, and he plays guys who might try to be getting your trust. Like he plays tricks.
And we do not have a lot
too.
of faith right now in those types of characters, right?
Right. But whenever you play someone who's like kind of betrayer, then it's like when they play a good guy, you're just waiting for them to do the thing.
Yeah. All right, Yago, when are you gonna show up here?
Yeah.
When are you gonna do the thing? Try to stab me. There's even a construction crew in this movie that I saw. Did you see that? Like
No.
he goes back to I think his old home. I think is what we assume, and he's like checking out like some houses, and there's a construction crew that he's like friendly with, and I just really hope that it's just Ben Affleck
I was about to
in
say.
a construction outfit.
Yeah,
saying,
he's like, if you're working here till you're 50, I'll fucking kill you, bro.
I don't
And he's
even
like,
know.
who are you? Yeah. Yes, give us Ben Affleck in this.
Yeah, that'd be so good.
Yeah.
Rob Peace.
Rob Peace. Let's talk about this. The 4:30 movie.
Kevin
This
Smith
is-
movie.
Yeah.
He seems happy. He seems a lot happier than he was.
Kevin Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based off stories that, like in media or in interviews and stuff like that. Like he felt like he had a dark period in the 2000s around the
maybe.
Dogma time.
Oh, well, you know what? He's one of my favorite arcs where, like, I like a lot of his films. A lot of his films I don't like. It's hit or miss. I really respect the fact that it's like he went up in he came up doing indie, and then there are like after Dogma, they're like, let's get you fucking moving, And I think Jersey Girl was his appeal to like, all right, mainstream audiences. Then Zack and Miri make a porno. It was like, come on, the Judd Apatow stuff, mainstream audiences. Cop Out. And then I think after Cop Out is when he was just like, okay, never mind. None more of Hollywood.
That's not what made me a uniquely, like, that's not why I'm a unicorn. And I'm not a Judd Apatow. I shouldn't be making Judd Apatow movies just because that's the only type of comedy that is made right now.
Right. It felt like he was trying to make other people's movies.
Right.
And then he did Red State, Tusk, and Yoga Hosers, all of which are so fucking weird. Again, for better or for worse. I enjoyed all three of those. Tusk is a nightmare, but
right.
And so it was like, okay, now you're just being a fucking madman. So that's all to say that this looks like kind of splitting the difference to me, where he's like, I'm just gonna make like a teen coming of age romp about a movie theater.
Right. It feels kind of like Mallrats, but like not those characters, so not the cynicism of his youth, but like just kind of a nostalgia for that time.
Yeah, and I like.
I'm fine with that. I think I think not only should coming of age movies always exist, but like it's something where I think that like he probably has a lot more reflection about that, having made kind of like rebellious youth movies at the early of his career.
Yeah,
that like it's kind of nice to see him kind of back in that saddle. I know he probably he's probably trying to make a completely different movie, but like you can never outrun kind of your reputation. And it is funny because I could see a lot of things being lobbed at this kind of career trajectory or pivot where like older dudes keep writing stuff. Like we talk about like the dad band, you know, like, isn't it weird that Blink-182 is out there singing like, I'm 23, I'm going to have sex with a 20-year-old. But like, who else is going to make coming of age movies, you know?
Yeah.
People
absolutely. And like Kevin Smith's still going to do his other stuff. But I think what it is to me is that for a while now, he's been making two types of movies. And again, I'm not against these movies in theory. He's been going super weird. Like he's going to make Moose Jaws soon, which I'm very excited about. It's exactly what it sounds like.
That's awesome.
Weird ass, like almost like trauma films he's making now.
That's great. And
then he's just making extensions of the Jay and Silent Bob world. I did not enjoy Clerks 3, and that's a whole other conversation. But like it's been like, if you want Kevin Smith, you either have to watch the weirdest fucking thing ever, or this universe that he's created that he just has extended and extended and extended. And so it's nice to see a Kevin Smith comedy that doesn't appear to actually be in that universe.
Right.
And it's kind of like, yeah, this is what you're good at, you know?
It is definitely nostalgic for a time that I don't think exists anymore for a lot of teenagers,
for sure.
because
Yes.
it's like does not seem very internet aware, does not have, you know, screens involved, which is a huge aspect of the teenage culture now.
Yeah, maybe they play into that, you know?
I think they do. I think that's what's going on with how the visuals are too, because it looks, I don't know, to me it looks terrible. Like a soap opera.
Oh, the fogginess? Yeah, it looks like a flashback the whole time.
And so I think that he's just laying heavily into that. It's like it's
rose-colored glasses, perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah. It's yep.
That would actually be really cool if that was the intent. I do think teens today need to be told, like, you know, things didn't suck as much. Like, you could go to the mall and you could do stuff with your friends, and there were places to go, and maybe you need to fight to get that back. Like, I do think that's a good message.
But also, mobile games are dope as fuck.
They are dope. Use Cash. Was it called Cash App?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only Cash App for kids under 18.
Hell yeah.
Get a credit card. I also I just like the general idea, and I think other people have done this at this point, but I really like him taking like Brian O'Halloran and
Justin Long.
Justin Long seems more like a weirdo in this. Jason Lee and all of his original like stoner slackers, and making them the shitty adults is very fun, because like in Clerks, if you remember, there were so many like outraged customers and stuff. Right. And I like that he's taking the now that they're old, he's like, now you have to be the outraged adults. That's fun to me.
That's fun. I mean, that's like the dad arc, you know? I'm going to make movies and songs about like how great it is to have a daughter or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And Sam Richardson's in this, which is always a delight.
Always a delight.
And Justin Long is doing a thing.
It looks like, I mean, like Kevin Smith movies have never really truly been something that I've like been, you know, like I need to be in the seat immediately or anything for.
I know what you mean.
But like I will probably give this a watch at some point. It'll come up, you know.
This to me doesn't feel like as much Kevin Smith movie. You know what I mean?
It doesn't feel like Kevin Smith, but I don't even know what that means anymore.
Oh, I guess I mean like it doesn't feel like they're pushing it as like, well, I mean they are, because they say from Kevin Smith, director of all these things.
It's not a raunchy comedy or anything.
It just feels like, this feels like to me, after he made Clerks, and when he didn't make Clerks 2 and 3 and 4, he made Mallrats. And that was still kind of connected, but then it made Chasing Amy, where he's like, I'm going to go for comedies that are all kind of tonally a little different. And it just, like you said, it feels more like a Mallrats to me, where it's kind of, I don't know, I like it.
I guess there is an irreverence in there. There's one line that the little woman says, she's like, I'm going to have sex and get pregnant or something like that. Like she's saying that as a kind of like You watch. If you dare me, I'll get pregnant, which is like a real, Fight Club kind of sentiment.
Right.
There's a little bit of that. That's always been kind of Kevin Smith's bag, right? Is that he's got these never-do-wells that are like irreverent to a fault.
I think what it is that, and like he's always been capable of this because he writes for like TV shows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the Kevin Smith like brand of comedy has always been, let's sit and have a monologue about a movie about Star Wars or something.
Right.
That's what people think of him for. And
sure.
so he always gives that to people when it's the right. This feels less. It feels way more away from that. Although I imagine they're going to talk about movies. They're at movie theaters.
They're going to have some thoughts like this. Like he's going to have, but I just don't. It's interesting because it does seem like it's built in that coming of age world, and it's not like the cinema verite thing that like Clerk was, right?
Yeah.
And he's not the one inviting that comparison to be made. We're putting that on the movies
for sure.
But it's just something that I think is interesting because that's one of the things that makes that observation work. The pop culture observers who are like, man, it's all turned into shit and stuff like that. Like those characters exist in a world that is in a way formless because they're never do wells. They sit around and they go to mall. They're mall rats or they don't do their jobs. This feels like these are all good kids who are just trying to have a teenage experience.
It feels less cynical, and like the characters.
It feels. So I'm wondering how if he's going to try to get that in. It seems like there's going to be room for it because our characters are like very pop culturally sensitive, but also as we were kind of discussing, it's got that dad vibe or that older like looking back at it vibe.
It's his Fablemans. This is his
Fablemans, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see it. It's it's nice. I don't know. It's nice to see these types of comedies too. In general, I guess.
They don't exist that much, right?
Yeah, not really.
I don't know what's the budget for this kind of like 20.
It's got to be small.
It's got to be small.
Yeah. I'm also excited for Ape.
Bagman.
This is
Bagman.
This feels like a I don't know, a parody, but like
right.
My hot take on Bagman is that this might be one of those movies that ends up being like really good. Like my hot take is that maybe this is really good, and we're all like maybe not, but like it just looks like it.
Right. It just looks like run-of-the-mill guy who's taking some kids. But it's like 1 to 2 twists away from being like a stellar movie, right? Like maybe not like, twists is the right word, but just
like really well shot,
like maneuvers or things that make it very unique. I really do hope it's a dude, since they make him sound like in the trailer. He sounds and appears kind of supernatural. He's got these clicking sounds that he's making and all that. But at the end,
weirdo.
like his mythos is that he's just a guy. He's just putting kids in bags, and I hope it's just a guy.
So the plot again, very which is that there was this guy, puts kids in bags of legend. And then this guy returns home, and the Bagman is going after his kid. The director did the Black Museum episode of Black Mirror.
Oh, that one was pretty good.
Yeah, The Girl with All the Gifts is another movie he did. This is what I mean, where I was looking at his background. I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be really well made.
Interesting, because that's a TV. Because honestly, for most of Black Mirror, because I haven't seen the other movie, but most of Black Mirror, it wasn't good because of the direction. It was good because of the concepts at play. Yeah. But it was well executed, for sure.
For sure.
I wonder what this is, because it really does feel like as run-of-the-mill as it gets.
I guess, you know what movie did this to me? Oh, shit. What is it called? Hold on. It's not The Tall Man. That was a bad one.
It's Slender Man,
It's not Slender Man. Someone's screaming it out. There's like one of these that was surprisingly good. We actually covered it with Jason.
Was it just The Boogeyman?
No, I thought that was a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, there's so many. This is what I mean, where sometimes the title makes all the difference.
Right,
Because
just so
this
you can
one,
remember it.
I'm like, what the fuck movie was that? I'll circle back to it. And this is driving me nuts, though. But like, this is what I mean, where it's like, these movies, they all blend into each other, and then one of them is like not what you think it is. This looks exactly what you think it is. I mean, I'm gonna watch it
Based off the trailer, yeah.
It's
I'll probably
it's-
watch it just because I like horror. Horror is a fun genre. I watch as many as I can. I do think it is really funny that they like spend a good chunk of this trailer being like, hey, you know, Bagman is everywhere. Everybody knows Bagman. He's in every culture. You know, that secret bag monster that we all know. So like they clearly wanted it just to be the boogeyman. You
Right.
know, or
I
like
figured it
Slender
out.
Man or something that had like some, you know, kind of cultural cachet, but they just create this new version of that guy. I don't even know if there's been a Bagman. Like probably someone read a
Fuck.
Wikipedia.
Again,
entry.
this is it
you know?
feels very like Darkness Falls, where it's like
But
this
it's like,
story, and
whatever.
they show pages of a book, and you're like,
You're
just
like, all
making
right,
that-
I believe. Can we get past this trope? Because like, I don't think you earn what you think you earn by proving this to me. I
Yeah.
know it's a movie. You know it's a movie. Let's just say there's a guy putting some kids in bags and it's creepy and
He's a bag
move
man.
on. Yeah. So it's great.
The movie is The Empty Man.
The
See,
Empty
you see,
Man.
you see how it's like
That's such a
blends in.
unmemorable title.
That movie is good, and you'd never know it. You have. This is what I mean. You got to scratch those scratch tickets.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
got to just keep going through like all these mediocre horror movies. Then you find one where you're like, "Holy shit!"
Right. It happened to with the because like when It Follows, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it's like if there was this, the naming convention predated this, or
Right.
It Follows was the first one. But then you get all these, you
It
know,
comes
it
at night.
comes at night. Sometimes it's coming. It's you know,
Comes
it's just
all day.
she dies tomorrow. It's all this, you know,
Right.
You know, subjects.
Yeah, this
Verb.
does this.
It's always something doing something, and
this is
that
the same where
makes
it's-
them all, the whole genre, completely like I don't know any of these movies. Are they good?
It's the same where it's like the blank man, and it's just like
It's the
fuck,
same,
man. Or the ends with ing. I feel like is another one.
The Conjuring has it,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're all like subgenres of the horror genre. That's crazy.
I know.
Like I can tell like the beats of each of these movies. Like I feel like I could be an AI that just generates a script for each of these because they're all specific.
I mean, go ahead and search for the words "deliver" and "evil" on IMDb,
Oh God, yeah.
and I think they're all exorcism movies. They're all demon
They're
movies.
all the Deliverance.
And there's
yeah.
so fucking many. Yeah, horror is bad with this, which again is why you just gotta watch them all.
It's
and
the
then,
scratch your tickets,
and
baby.
then you write down the ones because you're like, I'm never gonna fucking remember. So yeah, Bagman, he bags you. He's a man who bags you. He
Yeah,
bags
he zips
your
you up
kids.
and he makes clicking sounds and he slides his
A little
little
freak.
fingers through the window.
Another man movie is next. A Different Man. This is a very different movie.
This is the same problem though. A serious man, a simple man,
Yes.
a different man, something man.
This is
This looks sweet.
This looks sweet. This has his name is Adam Pearson. I looked him up because he was in Under the Skin as well. He is an
Yeah.
actor. He has some sort of condition where his face is I don't know.
It's kind of like a modern day John Merrick. It's not. I don't think it's the same disease. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it's something that happens where you get like you get benign like tumors in your face.
Yeah. You'd definitely know his face if you saw it. And this is about, it looks like it's like a really weird movie about a guy who has that condition. He gets surgery to look like Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, he becomes super handsome.
Yep. And then a second dude shows up. The synopsis is he becomes fixated on an actor in a stage production based on his former life, which is weird. But
I think
it
the
looks
idea
like,
is there was like a community of people who shared this affliction, and so
Okay.
he was like that. I know this guy from that era.
yeah, I couldn't tell if it was like he was seeing the same, like his face on
It's-
someone else.
Yeah, that. I mean, I think that the movie feels like it's so scattered-brained, and
It looks weird. It looks like
It
they're hiding
looks-
something.
I mean, I think it's. I mean, it could be. Here's the thing: is that like trailers typically, because movies are almost very typical. Like we were talking that conversation with The Exorcism. There's only like, all right, so what happens in an exorcism? Well, usually there's a demon that gets into a boy, or and then they get rid of the boy, and it's a struggle. There's very few beats to that story, so you have to like fill in some details. This movie is very clear in the trailer that it's like, we have an Act 2 twist. Early in Act 2, Act 1 is clearly meet this man who has this affliction. He has surgery. His life improves. He's super charismatic, but his life has changed and he is different. And his friends are like, we're happy for you, but you're not who you were. And then Act 2 is this twist that doesn't exist, like, 'cause that's its whole
Right.
movie, right? That, like, if we had a biopic of a guy, like, you watch Elephant Man, that's what it's kind of about, is like
Right.
just about that guy's life. So this one throws in this twist about how, what if like charisma is like a part of this affliction, like you, in order to get through it, you just have to be so charismatic that it now almost becomes a superpower. So the reason that he was liked, and the reason that this Adam Pearson, who plays the second person in the movie with this, they're the life of the party, because everyone just is so enamored with how they can conquer this aspect of their
Right.
life, right?
Yeah, it's this idea that maybe there's nothing remarkable about him anymore.
Yeah. And then we get this super handsome Sebastian Stan who's jealous of Adam Pearson.
Yeah.
And that I can see that can have an Act 3 reveal too. Like Sebastian Stan could revert back. He could try to take out the guy. Like, we don't know
Yeah.
what this movie's going to go, where it's going to go.
Yeah, it's got weird vibes, the trailer, where I'm like, is
Right.
this a comedy? I'm not sure,
I think I'm very excited about this, because
Me
I think
too.
that it does a thing that movies don't do that often, which is that if you're going to have like a high concept, like Sorry to Bother You did this as well. Like, it's like my first thing is like already a big high concept. A lot of studio movies will just say that's acceptable and that's your movie. And like movies like Sorry to Bother You and possibly this one seem like they might actually be like, and that's not all, baby. We got some more shit in here for you.
Right.
And I love that when stories kind of zag when they're supposed to zig. It's
yeah, I
good.
like it when it doesn't feel like it's definable in one, like, little cubby, too. Like, it's just, I don't know. Super curious about this
Super curious for sure.
one.
Yeah.
Final trailer. This is for the TV series KAOS, which just jumped the fuck out at me. It
This
is
interesting.
a modern retelling of Greek mythology. Something I would argue, like, we all had this idea. I definitely had it in film school. It's like, what if you took like the Greek
The Greeks
gods
and Olympus.
modernized them? But this looks like it's genuinely fun because it appears that Jeff Goldblum is playing.
Zeus?
I don't know. Someone else is credited as Zeus. This is what's weird. I was looking at it. He's not in the IMDb.
Oh, interesting. So,
Or is
yeah,
he?
I mean, he
There he, is.
does
He's
say the
Zeus.
word.
You're right.
Yeah, he says
Zeus.
Zeus is in his first line in the trailer, but
Yeah.
he's talking in third person, because that's the other thing that a lot of these gods do, is they it's all about pageantry, and everything about them is like, yes, do it for me. They seem to be compelled in the manner in which they speak, because their only drive, they're like succubuses, their only drive is to take something from humanity, and that thing is our worship. So they're all trying to vie kind of for power to become the next big thing, which
I
is
wanna
not the
warn
first time
people.
this has been investigated.
David Thewlis is also Hades, which is
Oh,
like,
that's
didn't he play
awesome.
Ares in another thing?
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, Cliff Curtis as Poseidon. So I don't know, because I don't know how IMDb works. So there's a bunch of actors credited for 8 episodes. David Thewlis, Jeff Goldblum, Curtis, all credited for only one. And I'm wondering if this ad
gets blown
is
up.
trying to trick us.
Yeah, that's interesting because it seems like a movie with all the star power in it, but hearing that it's a TV show, and they're only in one episode, that could be like there's an old guard and a new guard, and we're being tricked.
That's what I'm thinking, and that would be funny too. But that bums me out because Jeff Goldblum doesn't get enough credit as a villain. Like The Fly, obviously, but like him and Thor, he was very fun as a villain because he's like his attitude, and so as this, like, he looks kind of scary in this. Like he looks genuinely like
a
vengeful.
psychopath.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, man, why isn't he doing this more? This is great.
Yeah, where he's like, apartments.com, I'm going to stab you in in because I wish to. Yeah, no, it's very, he's got that charisma that is, it's the Ian Malcolm combined with the fact that he seems like he's very flippant with the lives of billions
with intensity.
of people.
There's like an intensity to his weirdness where you're like, there's like a darkness that you could, it reminds me of, without spoiling Longlegs, obviously everybody knows Nicolas Cage is Longlegs in that. And that movie, I don't know if you saw that, Abe.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. This isn't a spoiler. It's just that realization of like the manicness of Nicolas Cage, often played for comedy, can be played for horror. And you're like, right. Even though I'm so familiar with this, with a few little touches, he's scary. Like he's kind of a weird little freak now. And that's the same idea where it's like the charmingness of Jeff Goldblum can be easily kind of morphed into this like sinister character.
Human. Yeah. Or I guess not human in this case.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because it's funny that we got to this point that we've reached postmodern superhero velocities, which, because this isn't superhero, this is gods, but it's just the idea of someone being so powerful that like humans are seen as just kind of pawns in their game. And these are stories that have existed since the beginning of time. Literally, like the Iliad is about this,
right.
But so it's not the first postmodern superhero story. It's been like 40 years or whatever it's been since The Watchmen came out. But it's just funny to me that we are still in the last 20 years were superhero movies. And like, I forget when it was made, but like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, we had Hancock come out,
Right.
Where it was like, imagine a shitty superhero.
We've completely gutted, like where it's like, there's nothing more to say. Like I'm watching The Boys.
Exactly.
And it's like, there's nothing more to say here,
We have said everything I think we need to. Like all we can do is reframe it for our own particular society, like The Boys is. But I wonder what this movie is going to be trying to say about people who are like politics of people who are more powerful, or is it just going to be a comfortable little comedy romp?
I mean, it would be cool if it was all
assholes.
Yeah, if it was all between them, like their inner politics.
Right.
We haven't gotten much of that. It reminds me of George Miller when he was briefly going to do the Justice League. He was going to do them like Greek gods, which is a good idea, where it's like they're in their fucking, whatever, the Justice League Hall of Justice, and they're so far removed from like humanity, that it's like they don't really have a relationship with it. And that I think is a thing to explore with superheroes still, which is like the isolation of them. And like, I mean, The Boys does that a little bit, but I think there is more to say, a little more to say there, not much more to say.
that seems to be more about the trauma that this is social trauma that we kind of put upon ourselves, and like, especially with like the Homelander character, but almost anybody in The Boys, it's like, oh, we did this terrible thing to a child and now we're reaping what we sow. Yeah. This feels like they have not talked to a human for a millennia, and they just live in their golden houses atop Mount Olympus and watch TV to see like, oh, are people like worshiping me? No, then I'm going to cause a plague until they do. And I wonder how, like, I don't know exactly how you can.
So
change that up and make that relevant now.
You know what you could do? Oh, God, I hope they're going to do it. And maybe they are. You make them all a metaphor for the ultra-rich. and,
Right.
like,
That's what I
executives.
thought might actually happen, because they're looking at fountains and art and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the idea that they're so out of touch with humanity, they don't understand it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, why aren't they worshiping us? You know, I can see that. I can see this be. I want to.
I could see the confusion. I do want to. I'm curious about it. That is weird that there's so many, like, only one episode. Maybe they'll just do a thing where they go through like an anthology of like, this is where they're at right now with their.
I also don't know how IMDb does that. The credits. Maybe they've only been confirmed for one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
could
maybe
even
they
just
don't
be wrong.
Yeah.
In any case, we'll see.
We'll see.
We are postmodern babies, man. It is
really
crazy
are.
how, to me, this is like, I would not in the year 2001 have thought that this would be the kind of movies that and TV that we'd be getting. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, shit. Let's thank some more producers.
Dude, I've been waiting for you to ask.
Hell yeah. Big old thank you to Dan Hackroyd. Thank you to David Knife Boot Henson. Thank you to Deborah's awesome. Barbara's great and cancer can go to hell. Thank you. Thank you to Dracula, the bus driving vampire.
Woo.
Thank you to Driftless, Lord of the Wasteland, wants you to just walk away.
Woo.
Thank you to Ed Nug. Thank you to Exploding Runes. Thank you to Funky J Mostly Comes Out at Night Mostly. Thank you to Harrison Ford's Glovind Can Ham. Red Hulk. Thank you to Heathcliff's Helping Handfuls. More ham. Thank you to Highlander
Damn.
Likes the Way Tom Says. Pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
I'll tell him.
Let's thank Ombre.
Thank you.
Thank you to ImpossibleWorlds.net, a magazine, and there's a podcast.
What?
Let's thank
Thank you.
Jay, Anna Taylor-Joy's Baron Black Thumb.
Thank you.
Let's thank Chris Shanovich.
Thank you.
Let's thank Lieutenant Frank Durbin, Police Squad. Or
Drebin.
Drebin, sorry. What the hell? I'm just misreading
Thank
it.
you.
Look, Ma, I'm on a podcast. Thank you. Let's thank Mackenzie Fuck Shuffling with Willem Dafoe's confusingly large dick chill.
Thank you.
Let's thank Mercurial Oz.
Thank you.
Thank you to Mike the Helldiver.
Thank you.
And let's thank Mongolian Throat Skanking.
Thank you. All right. God, I don't actually have much I want to say about this, but we have to talk about the announcement of Avengers Doomsday. They showed some test footage or some, I don't know what kind of footage of the new Fantastic Four, Comic-Con, and of course, Robert Downey Jr. will play Doctor Doom.
Yeah, there isn't much to say that the internet hasn't already said. I mean, I think the position right now that we have to see this as, because it's just as transparent as possible, is that studios are trying to make money and trying to make as much as they can, and Marvel wants to be on top again. And it's not just, let's get a familiar face in there. I mean, it is.
They're
but
paying him so much money, too, by the way. Did you see that?
Good for him. Good for him.
He's getting his own, quote, like, trailer park, like his own, like, trailer compound on set.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's getting all
you can
these
ask for
perks.
anything.
Yeah.
Which is problematic, because when stuff like that always makes me go, like, so you gonna, like, I don't know. Like,
here's
other
what bothers
people in the
me.
movie are also, it becomes a whole thing when we're talking about millions and millions of dollars for sure.
Yeah, here's what bothers me about that. You know what would be way cheaper than doing this? Just writing something good.
Yeah.
And like getting a competent director and making a compelling story. Like it's like they're trying to hack it. Where like
that's what I don't like. Yeah, that culture of the hacking it.
Where
I mean,
it's like this feels desperate. This feels desperate to me.
Right.
And I hate that fans are like, "Oh my god, yeah, Marvel's
I
back."
kind of hate it.
And it's like this is the most obvious, transparent move you could do. Like people pointed out, like, yeah, that's a Romani character, right? Like that's not like you're kind of whitewashing the character of Doctor Doom, I think.
Okay, yeah, sure, valid.
And like there are other actors who could totally play this role, probably in way more compelling ways. Nothing against Robert Downey Jr., who's a great actor, Like, he isn't a bad choice for the record, but that's
But
not
he's
why
also
they're
Iron
doing
Man.
it.
Yeah, he's also Iron Man. So
Right.
that's fine.
That bothered. Like, I've seen a bunch of people like try to explain how Iron Man
it's
could
easy
become Doctor
because
Doom.
It's very easy because they now can write anything with the multiverse where it's just like, oh yeah, Doctor Doom is just Iron Man, but like in a different world.
Why can't he just be a different character? Like, that's the thing that keeps bothering me is everybody keeps trying to fill that out, and I'm like, you could just say this is a different character. That's
because of
actors
fandom.
play different characters.
Because
I know they'll probably. I don't know. I think just make him a different guy. Just say here's a different character. Like, you know what I mean? Like, actors can play different things.
Look, all we need
Just
to
have
do is scan all their faces, all the good ones, all the Robert Downey Jr.'s, and just everybody just AI that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Just because then you don't even have to worry about like a Kang happening.
Right.
I almost said Krang,
Yeah, the multiverse. My God.
but the Jonathan what's his name problem. That's also they're like
Yeah, they're just
Robert Downey
they're
Jr.
ignoring the fuck out of Kang. They're just done.
Yeah, they're just pivoting to something else, which I guess you do when you're a $1 billion boat. But it's just funny because they're just like Robert Downey Jr. We know he's of everyone, he's the most sure thing.
Yeah.
That's the transparent thing we've been mentioning. It's just funny to me because he should just play everyone. Like he should play all the Fantastic Four. Fuck it.
Fuck
like, wouldn't that be the best movie? Studios? Wouldn't that be the best movie?
I do love that his Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback is like gratuitous at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, dial it back, man. Leave some comeback for other people.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ, Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
Again, like one. I don't know. I like Robert Downey Jr. Part of what I'm bummed about is I was like, Robert Downey Jr., do more Shane Black films. Do more like weird indie things. You are rich enough to do whatever you want. Yeah, you don't need any more money. Go do some weird indie shit.
Yeah, I don't understand enough
he's so
about
good.
Economics to be like, what are they doing with all this money? Does it go to the government? All of it? Like, can they not? Or do you just get like you get the taste of caviar?
I think it's just
it's just like one hop skip to Epstein's plane.
Richer and richer. I had a family friend who was an obscenely rich person, and like hearing about things that they did was like, oh, okay, yeah, it is like he had a 2-story arcade, and my dad asked him, "Do you like video games?" And he was like, "Not really."
Then it's like, then don't do that.
Yeah, like there's like
what
really
yeah. I mean, it's just weird to me.
Stuff.
That brain, whatever happens, because I think you get the idea that you have to just do all the stuff to maximize your existence on this earth before it's so fleeting.
We play crafting games. You know the bug.
I know.
It's like, gotta amass, gotta level up, gotta get it all.
I gotta get it all, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. At the same instance, I'm extremely happy when I'm just sitting at my desk, watching a TV show, eating a burrito that is incredible. That's peak humanity. Is there other things that I'm missing out on? Like, what does Robert Downey Jr. know? He's like, nah, you gotta get a mansion, man. It makes the burrito taste better. Yeah. So, whatever. Dr. Doom, I don't really care.
It was a smart move for Marvel on a business level. It's just I think in the short term, Marvel
it might
is
be a
all
long term. Like we were talking about Nails in the Coffin, and we were talking about Captain America. This feels like this is there's a wave coming, and public perception is going to be swayed by it.
I don't know because so this is the thing. I've been wondering this too because I was watching Deadpool 3, and you probably haven't watched that. The movie has no plot. It's a series of in-jokes and memes.
Right.
That's it.
I'm aware
to
of that.
a point that if like my nephew who's never seen a Marvel film, or I don't actually know if he hasn't, but I don't think he has any interest, watch the movie, it would just be gibberish. It would just be like, none of this makes sense. Why do they keep pausing in weird places when a character walks in? What is he referencing? Why is he referencing? Why is he saying this stuff?
Here? Yeah.
Yeah, and the plot of that movie is garbage. Absolute garbage. And the character stuff.
That's funny.
It absolutely is. I talked about. You guys can listen to the We Just Watched.
I listened to a little bit of it.
Fundamentally
for sure.
nonsense in like very like ways that like the first two Deadpools weren't, like that level where it's like it's not just that it was meta, like the first two Deadpools
But they
had
were stories.
They were stories, exactly.
Yeah.
This is not really a story. Not much makes sense. It feels like it was swallowed by the Marvel multiverse gibberish.
Which I feel like you get one of those with Deadpool, especially. It's very
Right.
consistent. I'm sure you talked about all of this.
But it's making tons of money because Marvel makes movies designed for the weekend release. They just make movies designed for right now. And then I still feel like in 30, 20, maybe even 20 years, they're just going to sort of, like, who goes back and watches that many Marvel movies? Because they just go stale really fast. The question is, who says movies can't do that? Like,
Right.
ultimately,
That's just a new brand of
Exactly.
Pulp. It's pulp novels, right?
Exactly. Like, as someone who really likes movies and is sort of a snob, it bothers me. But, like, for most people, who says they can't be these flash in the pan? And there were tons of movies like that in the
Right.
past. And maybe some of them will hold up better. You know, you go back and you watch Airplane, and there's so many, like, topical references in Airplane that we don't get. And everybody's like, that movie's great. And it's like, yeah, I guess so.
Because it was doing all these other things that were fantastic. But, yeah, I mean, what makes a movie timeless? Because there's obviously things that make it, you know, completely, like, that joke tanks for an audience that isn't right now. But, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right about this. I think it's... I have a lot of thoughts about how as society we kind of look at, like, what the point of movies are.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, talking about what you feel like this kind of guiltiness over this pretension that we kind of have. Look, movies are designed for entertainment and comfort. So maximizing the feeling that the fantasy, a particular fantasy that allows people the maximum comfort, like, I don't know, making a movie that doesn't have any conflict whatsoever and it's just a bunch of people palling around having a good time, eating the best food, winning every single day. There's people who will watch that. There's people who will watch ASMR content all day. Look, that's not the problem, but the problem is also that if we only make that and that's what movies become, will we have money? Will studios have money to make other stuff that, like, I don't know, movies that have
Yes,
story and stuff like
I
that?
agree.
I do worry about that just because there is a sense of a little bit of a zero-sum game for the studios who have to kind of bet on where their money goes every quarter. And I'm worried about that. I'm worried about this comfort, this addiction to fandom and comfort getting in the way a little bit of other movies. But also,
I agree.
this is old man yelling at sky.
Well,
Sky is falling.
the
It's both
thing-
of those things.
All right, so, like, I think there's some really great... Indie films are great right now.
Right.
But I do think with companies like Marvel and Disney, it's almost like when a company promises to plant a tree, which is kind of mostly bullshit.
Yeah,
but
it's
it would be
funny.
amazing if Disney was like, listen, here's our indie wing, and we're going to take nothing but risks because we can afford to. And that's why, like, of this news, the saddest thing to me is mostly that I'm scared Robert Downey Jr. won't be able to do this other shit. Like, who will
Right.
also... But you know what?
The Judge too.
For most of these movies, to be honest, he probably just has to show up for a week on a green screen, and
Yeah.
then he's like, "I'm going to go off and make The Judge 2."
Right.
The
It's
judging.
not. To me, I'm not really thinking about Robert Downey Jr. I'm more thinking about
You know,
the
not-
brain
yeah.
trust that decides the biggest movies. And, you know, for every one of these $300 million movies, that eats 10,
I
$30 million movies.
I do
you
think
know?
Marvel has this like this cycle that might happen. I'm wondering because what happens is you make Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And that is those movies are a success because James Gunn is good at what he does. Like I think most of Marvel's success has to do with like a very good writer with a vision. I think the Avengers, Infinity Wars, and Endgames is because they did a good fucking job making them. That was
Yeah,
the success on them.
for sure.
You watch those movies and you're like, these are good. But what happens is they learn the wrong lessons, so they saturate. So they go, okay, Guardians of the Galaxy worked. Let's make everything a weird comedy. And then you get Ant-Man Quantumania,
Iron Man,
where they don't understand it anymore.
Iron Man works because he's snarky. Let's do that.
Make
to
everybody snarky.
Doctor Strange, yeah.
And I guess if Marvel was listening now, the fact that Deadpool did really well doesn't mean you should make 10 more Deadpool type things, because then it won't work. It's and the reason Deadpool, I think people are enjoying it, is because Ryan Reynolds is good at what he does.
Right.
You know, like it all comes down to talent and not like trying to make a formula. So in that regard, I guess, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is very talented. It's a good pick.
It's a good pick. Maybe that movie will be good. And you know what? Cool.
They got
have
the
no
Russo
problem
brothers
with
doing it again. So it's
right.
like,
didn't they say like I will only do it if the Russo brothers will do it? I think
and
something I read.
I really think that most of the Marvel successes have to do with them letting artists kind of breathe a little bit.
A little bit, which is funny because they became known for suppressing that kind of stuff. You know, like Ryan Coogler talking about Black Panther and stuff like that. It almost felt like a NDAs to talk about the process with how they interact with the studio, because Disney is so fucking controlling.
They really are.
But for some reason, they trust others. There's some people they trust.
I think it's the people who can deliver a movie that they want while still being able to work as a director. I think that's why some people like Edgar Wright and others like buckle under this, because it is a very specific talent where it's like you can, like, there are the directors who are like, I'm just doing whatever you say, and then they produce dog shit. Like, you still have to push back and you still have to be a director while work. I don't know. Should we talk about In a Violent Nature?
Yeah, so that's getting a sequel. I didn't care for the movie. I watched it in Violent Nature and I was like, the gimmick is cool. They didn't use all parts of the animal, so I was like, that's not very good. It was an extremely boring film to me. It wasn't designed for me. Dave, what do you have thoughts on?
I loved In a Violent Nature. That said, I'm not sure why you would make a sequel to it, unless the only thing I can think of is doing a different gimmick. But then even that feels like would get old.
Yeah, because you have just different movies for that.
Yeah, I would be happy to be proven wrong about this. But I really liked it as a horror fan, and as a fan of weird shit, and as a Friday the 13th fan. I'm just not sure why you would make a second. Again, it's sort of the same with it's the same with the It Follows sequel, where I'm like, I really like It Follows, but part of
don't need that sequels.
Yeah. But again, willing to be proven wrong. And would be loved to be proven wrong.
Is it because they think we're like really into the whole like Locket lore?
Yeah.
In A Violent Nature.
That's the thing. I'm like, what else is there to do?
Do we need to keep doing the story? But yeah, because that movie was an experiment. That movie is let's watch it from the killer's perspective. And so we're just going to lumber with this slow-moving idiot the whole movie. That's the gimmick. That's what makes it unique. It's the only reason to watch. It's funny because the Act 3 of that movie, not to spoil, but they move away from the gimmick and they start following the other characters, which to me proves a very specific thing. It means that even the filmmakers knew that in order to make a movie with this gimmick, they were going to have to not do the gimmick in order to make some kind of story or have some kind of character arc that isn't, because otherwise it's just a copy-paste scene on repeat, and they knew they couldn't do that. Yeah. So it's very surprising to me to read that they're making a sequel, but I guess it's because it did well enough that it's going to get another few $1 million.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about this last one? Because this one feels like I'm now like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, talk about the debate, I guess. I don't know, because there seems to be contradictory kind of versions of
Variety
this.
did a whole thing about how Francis Ford Coppola on the set of Megalopolis was kissing the extras and like being a weirdo. And then a video came out, and then the woman in the video said, absolutely not. That's out of context. I asked him to dance with me. I was he's just like a doddering old man. His wife was on set the whole time.
His wife was not on set the whole time.
Was not? Oh.
his wife died in April, which also makes
Well,
this
maybe
all
her
very
ghost.
sad.
Maybe it was her ghost.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. This was very. He's an old man. I think that there's no HR department because, as the article has a quote, who are they supposed to talk to? Complain to Coppola to report Coppola to himself. This reveals a big problem with indie filmmaking, but indie filmmaking doesn't have the kind of money where you have to necessarily, like, a HR department is on your. So if that's already true, like, if you know that HR department, you can't really, like, provide for that, and you don't have enough money in that movie to do that, then don't do shit like this. He should know better.
Yeah.
But also, it does seem like there seems to be new things dropping about this because, you know, journalists want to be,
But
kind of cover this well.
multiple people seem to have said this, so I wouldn't
say it's zero truth. Yeah.
I think I don't want to assume anything.
Well, there are producers who are like, at the time we were very worried about it. This could turn really bad for us and stuff like that. That means
I think there's an issue. I think there was an issue here.
Yeah.
I think whether or not
clear.
in his mind he thought, I'm a harmless old man, you know, they won't care. It doesn't really matter what he thought, you know, like it doesn't even matter if one extra wasn't bothered by it. It's inappropriate.
It was clearly it was an orgy scene also, or like it's the Studio 54 kind
He's
of
like, I'm going to hop in here real quick.
A bunch of people are naked, and they're all clear to be naked and or scantily dressed, depending on the extra. This is probably all done, perfectly fine. But he has this quote where he's like, "Sorry if I come up and kiss you. It's just for my pleasure." And it's just this thing where it's like you clearly just got horny because you were looking at a bunch of hot young people
right
in this movie that you're making about hot young people fucking and stuff, and you decided to take liberties, man.
That's one of those quotes that had he not been physically touching them, you could say like, "Oh, that's probably a joke," you know.
But the fact that he's actually making a joke,
yeah, the fact that he was actually like groping them and like, yeah, it's not good. This is weird. I'm reminded of the movie Casino. Mm-hmm. Where at the end of Casino, he talks about how Vegas was taken over by corporate interests and it lost its soul. But in the movie Casino, they're doing horrifying things. And that kind of is what the auteur filmmaking, indie filmmaking feels like, which is like a lot of studio big films like Coppola, you know, Apocalypse Now, big movies are now done by these like seemingly soulless corporate systems. But it's like, the positive is that the shit like this doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's unions.
Yeah, as much. I'm sure there's still creeps, but it's like this is the exchange, and it's like it is. You know, I'd rather sets be safer for people than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why, you know, like American Humane's tagline is "Nothing dies for film."
Exactly.
Because we're very flippant with, I don't know, what we did to horses.
And of course, I don't think, unlike the movie Casino, I guess, I don't think those two things are fundamentally opposed to each other, right? Where it's like you can still make art films and still have a safe and supervised set. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it comes down to, for me, he should know not to do any of this type of shit, even if it was well-intentioned and he was like, I wasn't trying to fuck anybody or anything like that. I was just like trying to get a party atmosphere going, and this is the best way I know to do it. I'm Francis Ford Coppola, so that's how I direct. And but like it comes down to me, like, you know what film you're making. You're making a very small budget film. It's just a bunch of people in rooms it's not like Apocalypse Now. There's no HR department. There's no one to come in and say you shouldn't be doing this. You should know better. Like, that's what it comes down to. And he's an old man. Like, I get it. Like, films weren't made that way always. But now they are. They kind of are. So it's all very sad to me. This is all a very sad story.
Yeah, it is.
Like, his wife just died, and he's making a movie.
And he's being a weird creep.
He's just probably very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So Megalopocalypse.
Yeah,
see it in theaters.
Hype, I guess.
See it on Tubi when it comes out to no fanfare.
Yeah, no one at all. It's so sad.
Let's thank
so
some more
sad now.
producers.
All right, let's get back into hype. Hype zone.
Get back. Let's fluff that hype.
Come on.
Big old thank you to Mr. Tell your wife how many Patreon subscriptions you have before you agree to buy a house. I get all the long ones. Thank you to musical guest Rob Ritchie. They get a Norm from Cheers. They get a Pete for Pagel. They get a Numino ultramicroscopic silicone volcanoconiosis anti-disestablishmentarianism Jones. Thank you.
Yep.
They get a pre-order Jason Pargin's new book so he can keep making big feats.
Nope.
They get a Psychic Bigfoot. They get a Rev MD. They get a Ricky Cilantro. Thank you to Rosemary's Baby from Eraserhead. They get a Screaming Horse Pyramid. They get a Sorry Cop, world's most laughable centrist. And thank you to Steven.
All right, let me take over here and let's thank the conveniently placed self-destruct button on the top of every baby's head.
Thank you.
Let's thank the ghost of Dave Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Midnight Patreon. What patrons at midnight?
Thank you.
Let's thank the Municipal Medicinal Arsonist.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Oatmeal Savage.
Thank you.
Thank you to the To Be Terror Bunny. Thinks you could use more Rutger Hauer in your media diet.
Yes.
Thank
I
you
agree.
to these 7 Bs.
Thank you.
Thank you to Tiger Draws, Pratt Thompson, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head.
Beautiful.
Let's thank Tip Drizzle.
Thank you.
Don't forget Tux.
Tux.
Let's thank Vincent.
Vincent, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Why don't you take a flying fuck at the moon?
Yes.
Thank you to Yorgos from the island of Crete.
Yeah, also
and
thank
of
you.
course, as always, finisher. Thank you, your mom.
Gotta finish with your mom. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
So, I have a question for you, Dave.
Oh, okay.
That I know that this podcast can't function without me doing
Can't
this
end.
very crucial step, which I will dangle in front of you for another 2 seconds.
Uh-huh.
Dave,
Yeah.
do you have maybe a movie that deserves more hype?
I do.
Yes.
Oh my God. We've come to this. This one just sort of popped out at me. Usually with more hypes, I try to search around more, but I saw that not many people had seen the trailer, and I was like, that's fine. Sounds good. This is called Red Rooms. I did not sell it already, but Red Rooms comes out September 6th of this year. This looks like, it's a serial killer crime thriller. The trailer seems to bring up like David Fincher, stuff like that. However, there's apparently no gore in it, no murders. It happens after the crimes during the trial. It's about a woman who's obsessed with true crime who is following the trial after the fact and trying to she's an online model and she plays online poker, and she's like a tech person, tech nerd. So she starts like obsessing over these crimes and like trying to find new evidence, because the idea is it's a killer who murdered women on a live stream on the dark web. And one of the 3 videos is not like, it never got found. So and what's interesting is the serial killer himself, like the character is just background. Like he's not really the subject of the movie. It's more about this woman just sort of spiraling into madness. Like she starts hacking the families of the victims and like finding out more and more. It's about true crime obsession, essentially.
Right.
It's a very on the nose, not even a metaphor, movie about this obsession with true crime turning this woman seemingly into a monster. At least that's what the reviews seem to indicate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think that's a really interesting movie because both those things are true. We use technology all the time to kind of try to get around aspects of ourselves. We get enthralled and obsessed with random aspects of technology, and it, almost becomes counterproductive.
Yeah.
And we also, things like true crime stories. We can be obsessed with just content in general and like almost to a pornographic level, witnessing this, the concept of this violence or this gore or whatever. So I think that that's a kind of cool little nexus to be in. and it's also using the format of true crime, like the way that they shoot on like telephoto lenses and documentary style, like the courtroom and stuff like that. It jumps back and forth from feeling like a real movie with dolly shots that go on people's faces of them looking sad. It's a very French film, but
It's very French, yeah.
but also they use shots where it's like, wait, for a second I was like, is this real? Is this like
Right.
found
Is it
footage?
like
Are we doing like is someone like doing some kind of crazy project that it's like half true, half false? It just seems like it's just using those techniques to make you feel that vibe, which is pretty
apparently,
sweet.
at least a large chunk of it is, or the first part, courtroom drama. It
Right.
like starts at the end almost, where it's like, because that's the idea, the murder's already happened, and the grisliness comes in like a lot of them just describing the murders. Like it's still upsetting for the record. This is not going to be the fact that it doesn't have violence and gore. That's kind of the point, where it sounds like it's like, we don't have to show a fucking drop
We
of
don't
blood
even need it.
yeah, to freak you out, you know?
Because the salaciousness and the sensationalism that kind of goes along with the true crime is imagining it. It's almost like it's worse in your head than, I mean, there are, quote unquote money shots for, this kind of genre where it's like, oh my God. And then they walked in, then they saw how horrible it had really gotten, or, the chains, we're looking at the chains that she was in for,
Right.
a month or something like that. Something grim as fuck. But like, it's almost like, you don't need to show it when it's more about her obsession with it. Also, taking like an act one and just basically making it, you're doing that to your audience. You're like, don't you want to know what happens next?
Yeah.
Don't you see what your main character's obsession is kind of all about?
Right.
It's a part of you.
And by not showing it, it helps shape that. It's kind of like the movie Funny Games, where it's like, it's clearly a commentary on violence. And it's like, so to make that commentary, we're not going to show violence, because that's the thing everybody wants, right? They all want to see it. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's sort of been labeled as like a serial killer crime thriller, but I've seen some reviews be like, yeah, it's more of like a drama thriller. Like, it's more of like, and I mean, it's a good sign that it's like, it doesn't fit into necessarily one box. So yeah, I'm super curious about this.
Yeah,
And
I think
like you said,
be pretty
it's
sweet.
French. It's French as fuck.
It does look like it's really French, dude.
Too French. I'm just gonna say it.
Like that's, you may be racist.
Too French. Red Rooms, everybody. Red Rooms, check it out.
Yeah,
And we did it.
super hype.
Super hype.
You did
Hype
it once
all the
again.
way.
Another week of hypeitude
Yes.
accomplished by David Bell
Yes.
and the people
And
at
you.
Gamefully. And I was here as well.
You were here. What? Do you want to plug stuff right at the end, real quick?
Just I don't need to take long. Just if you like what I'm all dropping, patreon.com/smallbeans. Michael Swaim, Adam Ganzer, myself are kind of a trio that run the show over there, where we talk about pop culture and other stuff, kind of like Gamefully Unemployed. And we have
Hell
many
yeah.
shows with Gamefully Employed, including I talked to Tom about Spielberg in a show called Spielboys. I talked to Dave in a show called Inside Dads, where we talk about the dad movies.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you and Swaim talk about Star Trek, The Next Futurama, where you combine episodes of those shows that seem to work out.
Yeah.
But there isn't anything between Swaim and
Not yet. There
Tom.
will be.
well,
We got
They both have it.
Once we do that, the portal opens. You know.
that's then Baphomet comes from the the
exactly.
hell portal. So that's what we're working up to. That's
Cool.
what I'm plugging.
I'll plug Gamefully Unemployed, patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed. Go check it out. That's all. I won't keep going. We did a podcast. This is a podcast.
Congratulations. We did it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, bro.
Of course. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, listen, our music is produced by Chris Corlew. You can find him on twitter.com as the Corlew, or go to shipwreckedsailor.bandcamp.com. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. For more of his work, go to mvbramley.art. Our episode artwork is by Justin Brown. available on Twitter as Justin T. Brown or at artnessbyjustinbrown.com. And finally, additional artwork is by Starlene Hodge. You can find her work at starlenearts.com or on Twitter as StarleneX. Cool. Goodbye.